Hi, everybody. Everybody leaving the room will regret it. The most interesting thing coming now. The man who will revolutionize many things. So, Chris, thank you for taking the time. It's a pleasure.
Always a pleasure.
So, I think we should maybe start before we dive into a more general discussion on the topic. Talk a little bit about yourself and what is it that Arago does.
I don't want to talk about myself too much, right? Because I'm this algorithm person, so generally this is a business crowd, and I have the CEO title, right? I'm supposed to be a business guy, but I'm a tech person. And at heart, Arago is a tech company, and what we do is we have embarked on a very long endeavor. We founded Arago 20 years ago. This year actually is our 20th anniversary. 20 years ago to teach a machine how to solve problems like a person does. So this is the one area of the artificial intelligence. And I think 2008, the stuff started working, and 2013, we started commercializing it.
And talk a little bit about, not everybody in the room will be an expert when you refer to the machine. What is it, what do you mean with the machine, and how did you get to defining what exactly the machine does?
Okay, now I have to explain the problem-solving bit, right? If you think about a machine solving a problem, you always think about economies of scale. And economies of scale means you have a situation A, and you have a very good process that takes you to situation B. Let's just say you have a metal block, very good process, in the end you have a car. And you can produce thousands of cars and millions of cars like this. This is how we typically think that machines solve problems. People solve problems. They don't really need a very good description of A. They need sort of a description of A, and they need sort of a description of B, and then there are hundreds and thousands of ways to go from A to B. And this is what happens every day when you ask someone to do something for you, which is what everybody does in their work, right? Everybody's following processes and does something because someone tells them something to do. And typically, what you tell them to do is not very well described, and the outcome that you want is not very well described.
So basically what you're saying is you have developed a tool that is helping mainly to support humans and enterprises to do what they do better and to free up capacity for tasks that they didn't have time before. Is that the right summary?
Well, now you say something very interesting, right? You're already taking this commercial. I very strongly believe I created Arago a long time ago, and everything that we did sounds very much like science, right? It sounds very abstract, and obviously in artificial intelligence, a lot of projects are science, and there is a lot of science, but we have done the science. We've done it for 20 years now. And the science is, I wouldn't say finished, there's lots more to do and lots more fun to be had, but in my mind, it's very important to commercialize this, especially artificial intelligence, because to me, artificial intelligence so far got done in two ways, right? Either it was done in a university, then you have 4 years to do your PhD, then someone else has to continue it, but no one wants to do exactly the same topic. So after 4 years, you're either done or it won't be continued. And the second part is you do it venture-funded, and if you do it venture-funded, then you have 3 years, and whatever comes out in the end has to be sold. So if you can't do it in 4 or 3 years, then it doesn't get done. And artificial intelligence seems to be a problem that's much bigger than 3 or 4 years. So I believe that the market is the only way to validate this whole thing. So we built all of our science that we've built was commercialized bit by bit. So when we needed a parallel compute system, we built a parallel content management system. When we needed security, we dealt with online banking. And all these bits have been tested before we actually put them together to build a machine that could solve problems. And then we've looked at the market, right? Where is a big market for this whole thing? And we arrived at IT automation. And this is what you said abstractly. We help people to solve problems and give them back their time. Now we have put this into a specific market and said, okay, we apply this to IT operations.
So very interesting. Can you give us an example of, without mentioning any names, some concrete customer that you have helped, and what is it that you were able to achieve for that customer?
Let me first go into what that means, right? Or why it's important. If you look at the new economy, kind of the big players that everybody in the room here knows, they spent of their technology budget maximum of 20% to keep everything alive, right? That's how much they spend on keeping what they already have working. The rest they spend on evolving. if you look at the old economy, at the whole, everything that we know, right, today is they have the tech budget, they expect their tech budget to kind of save them from whatever else is coming, but then they spend 80% on actually just keeping the lights on having the technology run as the way it is running today. So we see ourselves as an enabler, as someone who actually gets them fit to do something else, because we take their operations budget and cut it in half, basically. We say, okay, if you're willing to spend, let's just say you're willing to spend 100 million on technology, and this is a real case, right? So I'm giving a real case, not exact numbers, but let's say you're willing to spend 100 million on technology. Currently, you're spending 80 million of that just to operate your IT. After we're done with this, you only need 46 million to operate your IT. So almost half of your IT operations cost has gone. And now, if you're still willing to spend 100 million, then you all of a sudden have more than 50 million to spend on something that will bring your business forward.
So in the language of sports, tackling and defense, you're helping large corporations in the onslaught of what Silicon Valley has been doing to many traditional markets, whether it's mobility, whether it's financial services, and so forth. You're helping them to change the mode from defense to attack, actually. Is that what you're saying?
Actually, I think I like this phrase, right? Because I love Silicon Valley. I truly, and I'm a technologist, and I love being there. But I think that the Valley is not the solution to everything. And a new company is not the solution to everything. There are old companies that know a lot about their markets, a lot about their customers, but they're inefficient. And yes, we help them to actually re-attack their market or reconquer their markets or defend their markets.
So talk a little bit on that point. Talk a little bit about what your plans are. I mean, famously, Demis Hassabis, the founder of DeepMind, talked about the fact that DeepMind was a 20-year project. It seems like you already have done 20 years of your science project, and you now have the, the fortunate situation that you don't need to sell yourself to achieve your your goals. What is it that you want to achieve now with Arago?
I totally agree with him, right? It takes 20 years. So I'm the living example. It just takes 20 years. He's absolutely right. Or we're stupid. That's also possible, but not very likely. So if it takes 20 years, we've already done them. And if we look at the market of operating technology today, according to all the analysts that are out there, it's a $1.2 trillion market. We have commercialized this. We have done it now in several customers. We've shown the success of it. So our goal is to grab market share, right? And currently, this market is so super ripe for disruption. The largest player in it the largest players in it are just the large IT concerns that we know. And they're not doing it very well. So grabbing market share is fantastic in there. We have absurd situations, right? If you listen, I've listened to a lot of speeches, and people talk about how a customer acquisition or lead acquisition is a problem for them, right? We have people, CIOs of large-scale companies, calling us and asking us, can they implement the technology? The sales process in enterprise is still very long, but that situation is absurd. So our goal is to grab as much market as we can, because we believe that we can help these people.
So here we are, technologists from Frankfurt, Germany, 20 years working on his machine and now setting out to scale it globally. Talk a little bit about how you're going about scaling it. You're already monetizing very well, you're growing fast, you're profitable. You just did a round of financing. Why did you do that, and what are your plans in the next few years?
Yeah, I said, so this is my fantasy, right? We want to scale it. And I can sit in front of my guys and say, well, guys, we should scale it. And now what's going to happen? So we need to change, or we've done it, right? So we needed to change the thinking in the company from research and research testing and commercialization to research on the one hand and massive commercialization on the other hand. So it helps to have other people that think more commercial on the table, that talk to you and that have a totally different view than just the techies. I think that technology is the most important part. It's a very good tool to change the world, but it's not the only thing you need to change the world. So finance people, to me, are very important because they could just kick us in the right direction, right? It's something that we were looking for. Also, we want to do it the other way around. So for us, expanding to the US is something that has to be done. The US is the largest single market out there, especially for technology. A lot of people just inherently believe that technology comes out of the US. So there's no way that we can become a global player without having a large US presence. And this is why we started thinking about financing. And then we looked at the financing options that we have, right? And this actually is a very interesting story, because if you think about, we have this AI company, then a very typical set of investors come to mind. And as you well know, we went with KKR, which is a very untypical investor for this. And everybody told me, you're crazy, why can you do this with a old-style company? I said, this is super simple, right? Because today, all the technology that's out there, and Berlin is very heavy on it, is consumer-focused. And I strongly believe that the next wave of technology, the next of big growth in technology, is going to be in the B2B market. And you need people who actually deal with businesses today. And the large private equity players are people who deal with businesses today. And now they also have to be able to kind of want to stomach that strange world of new technology, right? Where you don't have the 5-year business plan that you can just execute upon. And we found a very good partner in KKR, because we actually have people working with us who understand much more about the old economy than we do, who own the companies that can benefit from what we're doing. So we have basically short-circuited the sales cycle, which is the biggest problem in B2B, at least by 1/5, which is fantastic, right? This is how we chose.
So your motto is all about giving time back. I'm afraid we can't give the time back for, having much more time for this panel. Even though the lights are flashing red there for us to stop, I'm going to ask you one last question, because I do think that nobody will be happy with us if we don't address it. Whoever you ask these days, Bob Schiller, Nobel Prize recipient for macroeconomics, the list goes on. People express different points of view on what you do, which is, deep learning, machine-based algorithms, artificial intelligence. You have a fundamental positive view on the implications of what we're seeing will be revolutionary changes, not only for technology, enterprise, but for the world as a whole. So just give us a 30, 45-second perspective on why you think it's a positive thing.
Well, I think it's the most positive thing of all, because, look, there's 2 bottlenecks in the world today. One is for everybody, which is time, right? Time is the only resource that we cannot replenish. Unfortunately, at some point, we're going to die. Even if we're trying, we have all these projects to extend lifespan, at some point, we're dying. Time is limited for each and every one of us. If we spend time unwisely, that's not super smart. And the second thing that seems to be limited is IT experts, right? There's this war for talent, and the only place you can feel it is IT experts. So we, on purpose, chose this area where we free up the time of IT experts, because their time is in super high demand. They are actually wanting to move up the value chain, so no one gets kicked out, is on the street or anything like this by applying this technology out there. I think it's a fantastic way for us as a society to practice what happens if we work on an eye level with machines.
And you still promise to extend my life by 25 years, right?
Especially thinking all the stuff that you don't have to deal with anymore that annoys you, right? So.
Exactly. Well, thank you very much. On that note, it's time for lunch.
Perfect. Thank you very much.